Hi, this is Elizabeth, one of the co-hosts of Beauties and Headcanons. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Bryce Burge, host of Your Soccer Passport here on Public House Media. After this episode, come join us on a trip around the soccer world as we discuss club and country every Tuesday. Stamp your soccer passport by subscribing on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your Public House Media podcasts. And thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Welcome to How to Write Good. I'm your host, Daniel Poppy. You can find out more about me at danielpoppy.com. You can also check me out. You can check out How to Write Good on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. Actually, I think that's just it. The etc. is just to make it sound like I have a lot more social media plugs to put in. All right, this week I have a band. Actually, it's a duo. It's a husband and wife duo, John and Amelie. Their band name is 7,000 Apart. I'm really excited for this. You can check them out at 7000apart.com. And if you're wondering about their band name, they're going to be talking about it during the show, so don't worry about that. And they're going to be dropping an album pretty soon, so pay attention. I don't think the album has a name yet, but they will tell you that as well. And I don't know, I'm really excited about this show. Because I think it's going to be really interesting. And this is actually, if you remember back from a few months ago, I had Evan, my friend who's a musician, on, and he actually recommended that I connect to these two and just invite them on the show. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to John and Amelie. All right, John and Amelie, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much.
I really, really appreciate it. All right, so before we get started on just talking about creativity and like what you do and your music and stuff like that, can you just tell, because your band name is 7,000 band. What do you call yourselves? Because you're two people. You're a duo, a duet. I don't know.
Yeah, we usually call ourselves a duo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
sometimes it's the band thing. I don't know. It depends. It depends if we have a band with us, because sometimes we play with other musicians and stuff. So yeah. And so you're a duo, I guess, but your name is 7,000 Apart. And I know there's a story behind it. I've read it a little bit. If you want to check it out, you can go to their website at 7000apart.com. But I'd like to just hear it from both of you and like how you got to the name of that. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm originally from Stockholm, Sweden, and in 2012 I went to the U.S. as an exchange student, and I ended up at Preble High School in Green Bay, Wisconsin, of all places. And John and I actually met in music theory class there.
Yeah. So we started dating that senior year of high school, and then after that year, Amelie went back to Sweden, and we were forced into a long-distance relationship for 3 years. So we ended up being 7,000 kilometers apart from each other for 3 years. So the second year of that, we realized that we really needed to have something to hold our relationship together. That was something we could do together. So we started 7,000 Apart on YouTube.
Okay.
Mostly doing covers, and we would record them from separate countries and then edit it together and release it on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, it was really complicated, but it was something that we really could talk about, because when you are away from each other like that, there's not that much you have in common anymore.
Yeah.
And just like creating something like that really, really helped us.
Yeah. That's the short version.
Yeah.
That's a short. Yeah, no, like distance relationships are the worst. My wife and I, when we were dating, I think it was like 2 years, and we weren't even that far apart. So we'd see each other like every other weekend or something like that, and that's bad enough. So
it really is. I mean, all long-distance relationships are long-distance relationships.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter if you're like 7,000 kilometers apart or if you're half an hour apart or whatever. But just that you can't see the person that you love whenever you want is really, really tough. Yeah, and like you can Skype, but Skyping sucks. Let's just be honest. Skyping is the worst thing ever. You're like, oh, I get to see you, but I really don't get to see you. It definitely helps, like, to have like FaceTime and Skype and all those things. Yeah. I don't think we would have survived without it. Just like writing letters or talking on the phone is a little different. So
the challenge was still though that like even though you can FaceTime when we're that far apart. There's actually a 6 or 7 hour time difference.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
So, doesn't make it easier.
Yeah, so to schedule time to talk, I was in university studying, and so by the time I got out of classes, like it was maybe 10 p.m. her time.
Yeah, and I was going to bed.
Yeah,
so
I was super tired, and
so we talked for like 5 minutes, maybe for like 5 minutes a day for like a month or two.
Yeah,
and that was really hard.
Yeah, so that would be really hard. So okay, so sorry, did I interrupt you, John? I'm sorry.
No,
okay, so I was looking on your Facebook page. I didn't see this before, but I'm just asking you about it because it intrigues me. So I listened to some of your stuff, but your genre, because you choose your genre, is organic pop.
Yeah.
And I want to know about that because I've never heard it, and what does that mean exactly?
So organic pop is just a word that we chose, at least for now. The album is still in like the mixing process, so we don't really know what it's going to end up with. But we think that organic pop would really fit us because, first of all, organic, like it means that it's real instruments.
Yeah.
So we try to just use real instruments for this album. And we enjoy that. There's a lot of musicality to it, and there's something... Yeah, so much more real with it. Yeah. We definitely love like EDM and like the other kinds of pop out there. But for us, we wanted to like kind of go back to something more classic and something more timeless.
We wanted to put ourselves in a box as well, with having real instruments.
Yeah.
Because a lot of good things come out of just using real instruments instead of trying to use all these other things just for the sake of having it in your production.
Yeah, so. I'm very much like, I can get a little overwhelmed when I have too many choices. So I was like, what if we just used real instruments on this album? Because then, like, I don't get too overwhelmed, and we can just focus on those, like, we can focus on having really, really good musicians doing what they're the best at. And yeah, that's how organic pop came around. And it also fits with us because we're both, like, we care about the environment a lot, and we have tried to find like good alternatives to like, buying like 50 new t-shirts to sell at shows.
Yeah.
So instead we actually went out and bought secondhand t-shirts.
Yeah.
It's like from Goodwill and St. Vincent de Paul, and we printed our logo on them instead. So instead of like contributing to like the emissions of gas, I can't talk.
Basically upcycling
instead of buying new t-shirts. So
yeah. That's a good idea. It's probably a bit cheaper too. I don't know. Maybe it isn't.
It depends.
So. It depends on where you go.
You might get some interesting things out of there. At least it's unique. I mean, because otherwise everybody has the same thing.
Yeah.
So, I actually kind of like that because John, you said you like are putting yourselves in a box because I feel like that makes people more creative when they're forced to like, because you're not really. If you have the option to do whatever you want, you're not really creative because you have you're not actually forced to be creative in how you think. And I feel like if you're putting limits on what you do, you have to figure out a way to use those be within those limits and be creative about it and make something good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we really decided on with this because the EP that we did, we wrote most of the songs while we were apart and. We produced it all, and it was very much like us exploring. We have no idea what we want to sound like.
Yeah.
So all the songs sounded pretty different. Yeah. There was nothing that kind of glued them all together. There was no red thread, and we really wanted that for this album because it is our like proper debut album.
Yeah.
And we want to present ourselves in the absolute best light, and we want it to be like something that we can look back on and be like, yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Well, kind of, how do you view an album? Do you consider it one piece of art? Like the whole album is one cohesive unit
for this album, I think that it kind of happened out of back in January I started writing songs for this album. I didn't really know I was writing for this album, but we joined this group of songwriters on Facebook actually called Song a Week, where basically musicians from all over the world submit songs every single week. And get critiques on it from other songwriters, and that just kind of sparked this sense of creativity in me. So I ended up writing maybe 50 songs, and then I brought like maybe 20 of them to Amelie, and I'm like, hey, I like these ones. And then we narrowed it down to 10.
Okay.
And so those 10 songs were kind of the ones that we liked the most. But they all kind of, since they were all written in a similar time period, I think they all have some sense of cohesiveness, but they're still like separate topics. So I don't think it's not like a concept album where it's like flowing from song to song.
Okay. I would say it's more of an introduction to who we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's more like there are topics that we care about and that relate to our lives and what we want to talk about, and I think it comes together really well.
Yeah.
So I write. I don't write music at all. I'm not a musician whatsoever, but I write. So I write creatively, and
awesome.
So there's this. So Stephen King. I mean, I'm assuming, yeah. So he has this thing, and I usually don't agree with a lot of what Stephen King says about writing, even though he's huge. But one thing he said that I do agree with, or like I'm at least open to agreeing with, is he said you should write a book in like 3 months. And the reason why he said you should write a book in 3 months is because after that 3-month period, you've kind of gotten out of the mindset of writing the book. And there's also this idea that when you're making goals, you should make 90-day goals, because after that 90 days, you actually can't focus on something unless you like restart and you plan again. And I feel like that sounds like what you were doing. It's like, writing everything really, really quickly, and it's also cohesive because you're kind of coming out of the same mindset because you're doing it in such a short period of time. It just reminds me of kind of that idea, write a book in 90 days. I feel like it's like applicable to other creative things as well if you want to make it cohesive.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can tell that they were kind of written in the same time frame, but then they actually needed to rest. Because I was like, let's finish the album so we can release it in August.
Yeah.
And we work with an artist coach in Sweden, and she was like, okay, take it easy, let them rest, calm down, let's think about this, let's do it right,
Yeah.
And that was really important for the creation of the album too, that we didn't rush it, because we did rush the EP last year, and that just didn't turn out the way that it could have if we would have let it rest a little bit and really thought it through a little bit more.
And we did work on the songs a lot with our artist coach and with a producer, and we spent a lot of time on pre-production, really, after the songs were written in the shortish period of time, but for the actual album process, it takes a lot longer, of course. So, but yeah, I think a lot of the themes in the songs are quite similar because, those were topics that were on my mind during that period of time.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're one person in 1 year, and then the next year you grow so much that it's completely different.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a thought, just went on I had a question, it just completely went out of my mind. It's just how it works. I don't know.
That's okay.
So with this album, did you both? Okay, so you wrote it. So John, you wrote it, and then you're kind of like refining it together.
So what happens is that John always begins the songs.
Okay.
Like 90% of the times. And he might have written one verse, a bridge, or maybe a verse chorus, almost finished it, finished the idea. He brings it to me. I try to make up my own melody instead of like copying what he had in mind, but I stay to like his chords and his like music. And sometimes we have to change the key of it because we have different voices. So I usually make up the melody. Like I might start from what he has made, but I might make it a little bit more mine.
She's a singer.
Yeah. So I have a little bit more.
Foremost,
yeah. So I tend to write a lot of the melody lines. And I might help him write the second verse or help come up with a bridge and stuff like that. So I would say like it's like he does like the 70%, and then I come and I do like the 30%.
I don't know about 70%, but it's. I think I
60-40.
I tend to write like I write like a diary, so I write diary every day, and then I have a lot of ideas, and I keep like when I get inspired by something, I'll write it down, and I'll record voice memos all the time. So like I have a lot of ideas, and probably 80% of them are horrible.
But he's like the creative genius, and I come in and I'm like, let's finish this, let's get it done.
She gets stuff done, which is more genius, I think.
I feel like it's so have you ever heard of what's it called? There's two. Have you heard of like the visionary, and then I can't remember the other term. There's like two. You're supposed to work in like in pairs. So there's someone who's like the visionary in like a team, and then there's someone who is just the person who gets the thing done. And
that's definitely us.
That's kind of which is a really good thing, because like it complements each other, and if you know like that's how you work, and you know, okay, he comes up with the ideas and then I like help bring it to completion, then like you don't get frustrated because you both have a role in how it works, and it brings about this really good end product, if you want to call it that.
But it took a while to figure it out, though.
Well, yeah, but it seems like you figured it out.
It's been fantastic since we've been working with this artist coach, and she's helped us a lot to kind of figure out each of our roles too and stuff, and that was a big realization, because it really helped to create like room for creativity for both of us, and giving us each our role in our space within the process of making songs, and everything pretty much.
No, it sounds like a good process. I'm definitely and we both know this too, I'm definitely like the one who's like the visionary, like between me and my wife, and she's like the person who's like super like unbelievably efficient. She's like she's like, at work I get everything done, I have so much time, and it's just like it's frustrating because I'm like, it's just so quick, it's just like you're too good at what you do. So but I thought that's really interesting. I think like I think that it probably is a situation where you kind of feed off each other for creativity. I can't speak. I can't talk. But like that's what it would seem like, because I mean, as a writer, you're kind of doing things by yourself, but when you run into someone who like you actually click with and you're able to do something creative, or at least I've seen it, and you can bounce ideas, you get so many more ideas just because you can be like, oh, what do you think of this, and then they throw something back, and like stuff I've been writing. So I have a book out, and the book I have out, when I was first thinking about it, like it was in college, I was planning it out, and I was talking to a friend, and I was going to set it in the future, and then I was like bouncing ideas off of like a friend and another guy, and one of them is like, why don't you set it in the past? And I'm like, that's perfect, all right, I'll do that. So it's just like you get ideas from people, and like it kind of seems like John, it seems like you just try to keep yourself open to any ideas that come your way, so that you can kind of grab those and run with them.
Yeah, I write all the time, so like I said, a lot of the ideas that I have, I don't even bring to Amelie, because they're just either not cohesive enough, or they're like, I don't like them to begin with. So some of them, though, I've brought to Amelie or shown Amelie, and like there's a song called Sorry that's going to be on this upcoming album, and like I thought it was a horrible idea, and I brought it to Amelie, and like everyone loved it. Like,
you never know.
Sometimes
I managed to figure out like a really good melody for it, so it got like super catchy, and then it just we're super excited about that song. But I have to be very careful too when he comes like with ideas, especially when he's super excited about something. I have to try to like, yes, it's wonderful, honey, even though sometimes it might feel like it's okay, or I'm just having like a bad day and I'm not like super excited for anything, but I have to like, it's so good, because otherwise he gets crushed. So
well, you gotta learn how to be crushed, I guess. I don't know. I think that's part of being creative. Like you have to learn how to be like show something you're really excited about, and then being like, huh, cool. Like it's just like, oh great, awesome. I thought this was amazing, and you're just giving me a meh. It's all right. Like I don't really like it. It's okay. I mean, maybe be something interesting next time, but I don't know. I think it's part of the process, but at the same time, I feel like creative types are more sensitive to it because like think it's such a good idea. But that reminds, because like in terms of music, certain songs are like the person who comes up with them, they don't think it's good. I was thinking yesterday, I was talking to my wife, I'm like you think about certain bands that come up, and you think about like the Beastie Boys, and their stuff is weird. And we always talk about how like if I say something like this isn't going to work, or like I'm discouraged about something, she's like, there's a market for everything. And when you look around at music, you're like, like there really is. There's so many different types of music, and there's so many people. And I was just texting a friend of mine, and he was just saying like, oh, I'm super, because he's a musician. He writes folk. He like writes folk music, and he's actually a cowboy too, which is really cool because I feel like it's more authentic, like legitimately. But he was just saying, oh yeah, I get so like critical about my own stuff, and like for me, it's been a really long process of learning, and I've just learned that if I make something and I work my hardest at it, and I actually take a risk and try something new that's creative, I'm okay with that if it falls flat on its face, because at least I worked as hard as I could on it, and at least I tried something new. Because if you're just playing it safe, you're never going to get anywhere, I think, with art. You might make something people like, but I don't feel like you're going to actually make something that is true to what you want to make, or like good, or something that you're like.
Well, it's not.
I don't feel like you're reaching your potential if you're just making something you think people are going to like.
Well, it's not true to who you are, and I think that's something that I've been learning over the years too, and especially this past year, is like being true to who you are as an artist, and really trying to bring out yourself all the time in everything that you do as an artist. Because absolutely, like you said, you can make something that probably a lot of people are going to like. But if it's not who you are, it's not going to really stand up to the test of time. And so that's something that we've really, with this album too, we've really tried to step back and, like we said, put limits on ourselves and really figure out who we are as musicians, as people, what we care about, like make something that is us, not just something that people are going to like, because that's the stuff that fades very quickly compared to when you actually make something that's you, because you're unique and like no one else is exactly like you. So I think that's a big focus, and has to be a big focus for artists.
Yeah, I like that. No, I like that thought, because like, I don't know, I've kind of come to the opinion, I'm still thinking about it, that like, if you want to make something artistic and you want to try your best at it, like you're just putting you're just kind of looking, and you're trying to be honest about what you see, I guess, right? You're not just trying to make something based off of like you're not trying to like look at a situation and be like, oh, I want to convey this, but you're just trying to see it clearly, and you're trying to convey either what you feel or the situation as honestly as you can. And I feel like even if you're an amateur, there's still going to be value in that, because everybody does have a different perspective, and you're just bringing that perspective to the table. So
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so you talked about there's different ideas or different things kind of that reflect you, like both of you in your album. Do you mind if like you kind of give a teaser about those different things?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there are a couple of songs on the album that directly talks about our relationship, and both the good times and the hard times. And yeah, so that's one part of it. And then we always try to talk a little bit about mental health.
Okay.
And so like at least there's like one song on there that really speaks to us like very deeply, and like it's very emotional for us. And yeah.
Those are things that both we've dealt with, and also we know it's something that a lot of people deal with too. So yeah, I guess that's kind of
okay.
I did kind of answer it, but there's songs with a lot of personal things.
Yeah, and we try to keep, some songs are a little deeper, but some songs are just like cute love songs, and that's okay. And because we need both things in our lives, we need the really light things and we need the heavy things.
Yeah, I guess I can give an example. There's a song, it's one of the songs we're really, really excited about, called Get Back Up Again. At least that's what we think the title is going to be. We haven't quite decided on it yet, but
there's a little snippet if you want to hear it on our Instagram, by the way.
Yeah, and that's a song that I don't know how much you know about, but I'll just bring up the story quickly. So we entered a Shure competition called Off the Beaten Track.
Okay.
And we entered it very last minute. We were we had a show in Iowa, and we really wanted to film this thing, this video for submission to this contest in like an airplane hangar or somewhere with a lot of reverb.
Yeah.
And so we luckily one of our friends there who we were staying with, he actually had access to
a hangar.
A hangar.
Because he was like studying.
That's super bizarre.
To become a pilot. Yeah, it was crazy. We had no idea.
Crazy.
Yeah, we had no idea, and then we were like, "Oh my gosh, that's perfect."
It's kind of crazy how things fall into
place. We can go there tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we went there at 8 in the morning.
Yeah, because we had a show in Green Bay the same day. Like we were supposed to be on TV the same day, so we had to get up like super early, and it was like 32 degrees.
Yeah, it was freezing.
Oh my goodness.
In Iowa, and we
recorded it in one take.
Yeah, we recorded it in one take because it was so cold that like my fingers and like it was supposed to be the warm-up take, but it ended up being the real take and the only take we had. We submitted it, forgot about it, and then we hear later, like I forget, it was a month or two something. Shure sent us, or we found out that through Shure that we were one of the 20 finalists in this international competition out of 870 some.
Yeah.
Wow.
People.
Submission. It was crazy. So we were just extremely excited about
it. And so the winner.
Yeah, but then you submitted like a second video with some gear that Shure sent us.
Yeah.
And
the winner was decided by Tori Kelly.
Yeah.
If you know who she is.
Oh, I feel like I do.
She's a kind of up and coming artist.
She's like pop country-ish.
Okay.
She has a fantastic voice.
And so we submitted this video, and it was one of the songs that we were kind of excited about, but we weren't really sure what to submit for the second video, and we just kind of did a thing, and we didn't win. And we found that out when we were in Sweden, and so I was so upset. Like, it's like you get those emotions, you're like trying to hide it a little bit, but you're kind of upset because you're like, oh man, that would have been so awesome. Like, I think the winner got to record at like
Capital Studios
nice.
in LA,
and you would get like $5,000 worth of like Shure products. And
that would be nice.
Yeah. But anyway, so I wrote this like really salty song towards Tori Kelly.
That's amazing. I'm sorry. That's awesome. You're channeling Taylor Swift.
Yeah, very good.
Exactly. And I was so salty at Tori Kelly, so I write this super salty song. And then I'm like, okay, this is like really immature. Like, I'm not gonna.
That's amazing. I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah. So then the same day, I end up writing a second song that's like in a positive light.
Yeah.
And like, even if you fall down, like you're gonna get back up again. You know. And but anyway, so that song's about Tori Kelly, and so next time, hopefully when we meet her someday, I'll be like, hey. This #1 song on the radio, it was about you.
Yeah.
Just so you know, if you would have chosen us, it would have.
It wouldn't have been written. So thank you.
So thank you.
Yeah. I mean,
anyway.
Got to spin it positively. But
yeah.
Sorry, Amelie, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
No worries. No, so the song, it's called "Get Back Up Again," and it's very much like it has a lot of energy, and it's just kind of like I don't give a poop about anything. I can't swear, but you know what I mean. I'm just gonna like get back on the horse, and I'm gonna keep doing what I love, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And we actually like the last day in the studio. I struggle a lot with anxiety.
Yeah. I do as well, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I have tons of performance anxiety, and sometimes I just wake up, feeling really, really bad.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was going to be really, really bad for me in the studio because, I had to perform every single day and I had to it was, this is it. Now we're recording the vocals for this, lead vocals.
Critiquing everything.
Yeah, critiquing everything all the time. And I actually did really, really good. I was surprised that I did so good until the last day. Yeah. The last day I had an anxiety attack. It was really, really bad and I had to leave the studio and it was just, really tough day. But then, I didn't manage to finish the lead vocals for Get Back Up Again that day. So we came in the day after by ourselves, just John and me, without the producer, and we recorded more lead vocals, and I was just like, this is so fitting, because it was really like, okay, yesterday was a terrible day, but now I'm in here and I'm gonna just do it.
Yeah.
And so the lead vocals are from that.
That added a lot of meaning to the song as well. So we're excited about that one.
So I was actually going to ask this before, but like you were like, so in my own life, I find that for me writing, I find that in a lot of cases, it comes from a lot of difficulty. So there's something difficult in my life, and how I process it is writing. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like if you didn't, going back to losing the competition, like if you didn't lose the competition, you actually wouldn't have had the inspiration to write the song. And I don't know, I wonder, like in your lives, do you find that when you write, I mean, not your happy songs, but maybe even it affects your like more upbeat songs because you've gone through stuff, but do you find that in a lot of cases, stuff you're writing about, like the music, it comes from, you go through this difficulty, you kind of struggle through it, then you get to the end, and you can create something out of it?
Yeah, so I do write a little bit, but I only write when I'm really unhappy or if I'm really sad. Yeah. So I'm definitely one of those. But I've been so happy since John and I got married and we finally like got to live together and everything. Yeah. So like I haven't started any songs since then, I think. But John just writes.
Is it just you just write, it's just a habit, or is it like, do you find that it does connect to difficult things you're going through or anything like that?
I write a lot of different style and using a lot of different like techniques, I guess, and like one of the techniques for this album was actually perspective. Okay. And I was writing from other people's perspective. So one of the songs is about my grandpa, basically thinking about his life the day that he passed away. So so like he had been married for over 50 years, and so like absolutely, like I write about that, but for me it was writing from his perspective. And so the thing is like if you're just writing from a place of like sadness or happiness or something, then you're kind of confined to those moments that you actually feel that. And I think like to really like grab onto those moments when you have them and actually write something, no matter where you are or what you're doing, is really important, because it's a lot easier to be very honest and like direct with like, this is what I'm feeling, and write a song about that. But on those other days when I'm not feeling those things, sometimes I write from another person's perspective and put myself in that situation and be like, well, this is what I would feel in that situation.
And you can get really emotional from just...
Yeah.
Well,
John's a very empathetic person.
Yeah. I'm a very emotional person, so that too. I tend to write from those types of things and just feeling what
you think that they feel.
Yeah. Well, that kind of reminds me of like if you are an actor, I think a lot of people who act, they try to put themselves in that situation and they try to almost imagine that they're there. And I know for writing as well, it's something that people don't really think about. But if you are ever struggling with actually like actual writing, so not like music, but if you imagine you're somewhere, or you imagine you're in the situation, or you imagine you can see it, or you imagine the emotions, it's a lot easier to write. And that's something I guess I've done naturally most of my life, but when I've been having a hard time with writing, I've learned that I'm like, okay, I need to slow down. I actually need to take time to like kind of get into this mindset and just kind of walk through what's going on for whatever I'm writing. And it comes across a lot better, and it comes across much more truthful than if I didn't, which like sounds like the exact same, like really similar to what you're doing, which I think is really cool that there's like a through line connecting, acting, writing. I don't know about painting. I don't know how that works in terms of creating Black Sheep right there. But we've run out of time. But is there anything that you two would want to say, whether it's about like music or creativity or your work or relationships or whatever? The field is open completely. It can be whatever. Are there any thoughts that are just on your mind that you'd like to share before we go?
No, I just want to say to everyone out there, if you're wanting to go into something creative, like just do it. It is hard sometimes, but it's so rewarding. And if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? And it's better to look back on your life and be like, yeah, I at least tried, than like, oh, I should have done that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would just encourage everyone to do what they love.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that if you do it, you'll find that like people really want to support you and they really want to help you out. And like, I mean, we've had so many times throughout these past like 4 years, I guess, but especially these past 2 years of being together, that like we had no idea that people would actually support us as much as they have. And
don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah,
reach out to the artists that you look up to, and reach out to the people you think are cool and be like, hey, how did you get to where you are? Because people are so likely to help you.
And submit that video to Sure, and you know,
submit to competitions. You never know.
You never know. So I think that's probably our thought for closing, I guess.
No, I think that's perfect. I really appreciate you two coming on. I think it's been great.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Fun.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, and that is all we've got for this episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. Again, I'm just going to give them the plug again. It was great to have them on. So if you're listening, John and Amelie, it was excellent. I really enjoyed it. Again, you can check them out at 7000apart.com. They don't have a name for their album, but it is coming soon. So just keep your ear to the ground for that. And also, if you want to support them, check them out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever, just go somewhere, type in 7000 apart, you'll find it. Or you can just go to How to Write Good's Instagram and you can check it out and you can look at who I'm following, because I do follow 7000 apart. And they do a better job than me, honestly. All right, that's all I've got for you this month. Next month is December. This is crazy. It's been more than a year. We'll have to talk about that sometime. Or just the process, or like what it's like to... I mean, there's other people who've done it longer than a year, but you know what I'm talking about. All right, that's all I've got. My name is Daniel Poppy, and this is How to Write Good.